Oh, hello there, y'all. Come on in. I don't think I've seen you around here before. Out exploring the area, I take it? Well, thanks for coming around then. There is a lot of excitement to be had when you decide to take a chance and explore new areas, right? The unknown can lead to so many fun possibilities. I know that I've found so many amazing things just off the beaten path. And when you do, the things you find seem all the more precious and personal, right? Of course, there's also the danger that comes with pushing too far and not knowing when it's best to head back, but sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself again. I'm Rain, and this is Fennec Fables, where we delve into some fun prompts for adding depth to your tabletop role-playing games, to give you some interesting ideas to think about as you play or prepare. Before we get started, if you can, hit the subscribe button, as I'm getting ready to run a contest for the channel once we hit 250 subscribers, with lots of pins and dice and even stickers set up as the prizes. But we're going to get into that later, so let's get back to the video. Before we really get into any of this, I'm going to mention that, as with all ideas in games, you should really make sure that everyone is on board for that style of play. What may seem like a fun idea to one person may end up feeling tedious or even annoying to another. Everyone should be on the same page on the game experience they were hoping to have, so remember y'all, Session Zero is an amazing tool and really should be the first thing you do before you even start playing. That said, I really enjoy the idea of exploration and preparation in games. Setting yourselves up with what you think may be the best tools and people for a task and making a go of it. But how often does that really happen at the table in the first place anyways? In a lot of tabletop role-playing games, it's almost a given that you will know where you are on a map at any given time, at least in the ones I've come across. Something that breaks this mold and is going to be a bit of a focus, at least mechanically in this discussion, is the hex crawl. This method of play, in which a map, typically composed of hexagons, in which the only person that knows what's in each section, is the game master. The players will be the ones marking the territories, crafting a map, and making do with what they can to survive and progress, but they're only going to discover this once they enter a new area, or a new hexagon, which is why it's called a hex crawl. And really, that is some of the most interesting ways to make the land itself cool, in my opinion. Being the one to have to uncover its mysteries. There's also the distinct possibility that the players themselves may end up lost or in a place they had not anticipated being at all as they traveled, but I think that's part of the fun, and that can really amp up some tension as they work out what to do next. Think about it. When was the last time in a game you were anticipating in, or participating in, that you were having to discover or uncover your path? You usually just had a map or declared, "We are going to X," and then it just sort of happens. But imagine the thrill there could be in your group being the ones to actually be the ones to forge the path and uncover mysteries. I'm here to encourage folks to maybe integrate the idea and use of these into the journey itself. The risks and tribulations that are part of it all. Not a detriment, but an integral feature of the game you are playing. To start off with, let us think about mapping and uncovering territory. Back to the hex crawl as a basis. This isn't to say it needs to be the main focus of your game, but consider how much more invested and aware of the map as a whole your players can be when they are the ones also revealing the details before them, essentially crafting their own map and making their own notes about what they find. When you give a map completely to the players at the beginning, it does its job and shows them the key details, but it's also a lot to process. To take from video games as you're exploring and uncovering things, you naturally begin to place your own points of interest as you go through them. And the places that you have already found then also become things you're better relating to because you're the ones that found them and it wasn't just a name on a map. Think of things like Breath of the Wild, for example, or any big open world game where you climb up anything and gasp, you see some peculiar new detail off in the distance. It entices you. You want to go further and do more, right? Add in some engagement from players as they start marking down on either a physical map for the group or their own notes, and now they are pushing themselves to be even more in sync with the exploring mindset. But with exploration also comes its own set of challenges and risks. As one takes on the thrill of exploration, there also comes the risks and challenges of survival and adapting to the new place you found yourself. Maintaining supplies such as food, water, ammunition, and even the clothes on your back all become quite pressing matters. How far are you able to keep going before you need to stop or even turn back to the base camp? The push and pull of proper resource management, and even how well you're able to scrounge things together from the land around you, can really help a specific skill set shine. Generally, I try to avoid mentioning any one system in particular in these videos, but I will say that the tendency to handwave things like this is an active detriment to many archetypes in games. In this case, being the Ranger in D&D 5e, whose ability to help groups survive is often ignored, so it then has to fall into the same space as everything else, whose main goal is damage output. Leaving in ways for certain skill sets to actually be useful or even paramount to the group's survival is increasingly important. I've said it elsewhere, but letting folks have a niche that they can fill makes everyone feel rewarded in games. To set the scene, think of this. The party has been traveling for a week now. They've been following the river as it twists and bends through the lush and vibrant forest. They've been maintaining water, but catching food has been harsh for them. The larger beasts have maintained distance from the group, though they can hear them at night during watch. Fortunately, last night, Alana was able to lay in wait with a trap and finally snag quite a hefty boar. The group will not need to rely on rations for some time, and there is such jubilation. The party having to adapt and make do to their surroundings makes the narrative, their actions, and their roleplay all the more important. To tie that into a current example, look at how Dungeon Meshi handles things like this. The party has to press onward in a desperate rush. They cannot waste any time going back, and so has to rely completely on the skills of each member and their expertise, trusting them to make it to their ultimate goal. That camaraderie and that desperation, in a way, opens up new realms of play for them, as well as help to explore the world building in a new avenue. And as they make their way along, they also figure out how to adapt. Without going into too many spoilers, they figure out how the creatures around them also contend with the world and follow suit. In one case, making actual suits. And aren't they just fashionable as all heck? But in all seriousness, having to look at the struggles of the world and knowing that you can't just walk back to town for the perfect solution will push players to come up with new ways to approach a challenge they may face. Moving back to that temple they were at 2 days ago because they know there were resources there that they would be useful at this ravine to get across, or knowing that the river they've been following upstream is also going to be their quick exit, which is why they've been dragging that canoe they made with them. But there's also going to be that last bit in their heads as they explore and contend with the world around themselves. This being the likelihood that they are on their own. It isn't something that is often brought up in games, especially when travel is handled in a very brusque manner. But depending on the type of game you're heading for, then it can be all too likely that players will also find that they are on their own. There is no backup, there is no recovery. If they make the wrong decisions, they can quite possibly become sick, injured, or begin to starve out there and die in this wilderness. I feel like bringing in the real risk of things like diseases, both mundane and magical, depending on your game, as well as the real threat of injuries and starvation, will also really emphasize how perilous the world might be. That the hits start coming and they just keep coming, and sometimes the difference between everyone coming home and a lost party in the woods can be as simple as the cascading failures of a missed meal or a forgotten bit of gear. The jubilation of success tinged with the fear of failure makes for games that are both memorable and exciting, in my opinion. That said, there are some downsides as well, as while these ideas can be a lot of fun depending on the group and game you're running it with, it can also be something that can be ultimately skipped over depending on the level of technology or even magic in your campaign. Many games focused on survival and exploration have fallen prey to the few simple cantrips or low-level spells, as many an online story can attest to. From options used to sidestep exploring or traversing terrain to things like light, food, or water may be handled with a few useful spells or technology. And in a way, that is also them preparing for the adventure at hand. So while it may seem like it's a quick trip, it's also using up very precious resources. A guaranteed source of food at the cost of what may have been something they needed later. The choice is theirs, and one they will have to contend with at the end of the day. But what about y'all? In games that you have played in, what have been some engaging moments of exploration and survival that you've gotten to pull off or even failed to survive at? I'd love to hear the stories y'all might have. And if you don't have any from games, you can always bring up some of your more intriguing bits of personal exploration if you're so inclined. Though be aware that don't mention anything illegal. If you can, a like, share, or especially a subscribe really helps as I work on getting more of these videos out. I've been working on my way to 500 subscribers. Initially, I was planning on saving the contest and giveaway for when we reach that, but as I said earlier, I've decided that instead I'll be running it when we reach 250, so keep your eyes out for that. I've got a couple of lovely prize packages already and going, including a set of dice from Kids on Bikes, as well as a couple of pins and badges, or sorry, I should say stickers, for my own personal collection. I would hope that you guys would enjoy, so let's go spread the news, shall we? If you enjoy answering TTRPG prompts or questions, please join me on Twitter or Blue Sky, where I post daily, which is on the description down below and linked on the main channel page. Who knows, your responses may be part of a future video. If you have any suggestions for future topics, I'm always interested in what folks would like to hear, and you can send them either by email or by joining the channel Discord, where you can chat with me and fellow cool people. Thanks again, y'all, and I hope these ideas were useful to you and help you tell better tales. Bye!